Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Mo Show Live. It's Morris Lilienthal. We have got a great guest today, and I'm really excited to have our guest on, Officer Lane Harper with Birmingham Police Department. And we're going to be talking about some things that have really, come to the forefront in the last several years, and that's talking about policing and the role of police officers and maybe touch on some police training. And then we're also really, I know, going to talk about one passion of Officer Harper's. That's the Power of Life Foundation, a nonprofit that he helped found and is really pouring his heart and soul in to try to give back to his local community. But Officer Harper is in Birmingham, Alabama. He's been in law enforcement for over 20 years. He first started with Birmingham Police Department in 2004. He's been an instructor for a couple of years at the Police Academy. He served on the Burglary Task Force and many other roles with the Birmingham Police Department. And a really cool fact that I got to know about Officer Harper is that he is a second-degree black belt. So we want this guy in our corner. Officer Harper, I'm not going to make you mad.
No.
So Officer Harper, thank you so much. I really enjoyed
You.
talking to you over the last couple of weeks, trying to get this thing set up, and appreciate your time, and certainly appreciate all your service to our local communities here in Alabama and everywhere around that you're doing with the Power of Life Foundation that we'll talk about. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me today.
Well, it's my privilege and pleasure. And folks, if you are watching us today and you're watching the live show, then share it out. Get out there and share this thing out so people can see more about Officer Harper, learn and join in on this important conversation, talking about the role of police officers, and learn more about his organization that we're going to talk about here towards the end of the interview. And if you're watching the show recorded, which a lot of people will watch the show on a replay or maybe hear the podcast version of the show, put questions or comments in the video afterwards. We'll monitor those and try to get back to those. If you are watching now and you've got a question or a comment, jump in right now. We'll try to get to those. And if we've got time to do, but we've got a jam-packed show today to talk to Officer Harper, and I just want to get started with it right away. So, Officer Harper, I'm just curious. People ask me all the time, "Hey, what led to you wanting to go to law school? What led to you wanting to be an attorney?" And I've got my little story, but I want to know what led to you wanting to go into law enforcement. What drove you towards that direction many years ago?
Well, several years ago, it's probably around 5 years old, we had police officers in New Haven, Connecticut, where I'm originally from and where I was born. They used to come up to the house and speak to my mother when my father was gone, just to make sure that we were okay and everything was just moving as smoothly as it's supposed to, as if he was still in the house. To give you a secret about my age, they used to take the milk cartons that were set off at the curb and bring them to my mother so she didn't have to go and walk to the sidewalk for safety. So just my relationship with police officers as a young child was just superb. It was excellent. And they were fair and firm.
Yeah. And so, and I think you told me, Officer Harper, that your dad's actually in the judicial system, and he's a judge. Is that right?
Yes, sir. He's a Supreme Court judge in North Haven, Connecticut. Luby Harper Jr., the Honorable Luby Harper Jr. Yes, sir.
Well, so you've kind of grown up around, in some form or fashion, it sounds like you've kind of grown up around the judicial system and it formed a positive impression upon you and that just kind of led to you wanting to go into this field, right?
Yes, sir. But I don't like to argue. Judges and attorneys argue. You guys argue. I can't do it.
Well, I like to argue at the office. I don't win arguments at home, right? I'm married, so I lose those arguments at home, and I lose them with my son. The only person I can win an argument with at home sometimes is our dog.
That's
but
right.
Usually he gets his way too.
That's right.
But over the last couple of years, we certainly had a lot of trying times with health and safety in our country, in our world, really, with the pandemic. But something else that's kind of come up, and and I'm glad that it did, is the social justice movement and things in interaction with police officers and problems with police officers and police departments. And I know you've had to probably have fielded that question a million times in the last 2 years, and I'm sure it weighs heavy on you as an officer and as an African American to have these conversations. And so I'm really thankful that you would be here to talk a little bit about the role of police officers. Right. Talk to us. You and I were speaking yesterday, and I told you before we went live just a minute ago that you have a really unique position and thought process on the role of police officer. And you had a really cool phrase that you used, and I want to let you share that with what you thought police officers, what role they should play. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. From the conversation the other day, and just for the public to know and be informed, is that you have to know that police officers are not warriors. We're guardians of the community. We're providing peace to situations. And what I don't think a lot of the newer generation is familiar with, a long time ago, police officers were once called peace officers. And we were called to certain situations to provide peace and to bring calmness to the situation. So in today's policing, you have a lot of people growing up in a warrior mentality, but police officers are not warriors. We're guardians of the community. We want to continue to keep the community safe and every facet that transpires within that community under control. So I just want to,
Well, I love that though, but guardians of the community, and I think part and parcel of that is something that I know from talking to you, and that kind of doing some background work and stuff, that you're a big believer in, is being a member of the community as a police officer.
Correct.
And getting to know your community. And that is, seems to me on the outside looking in, something that has been lost over the last 10 or 15 years. You know, one of the things that I've talked to folks about, not necessarily with policing, but one of the issues we've had in urban cities is the suburbanization of America, where people move outside and they just, you know, if you're in the Birmingham area, and like I said, I was telling you, I went to law school and practiced my first few years in Birmingham. You know, not as many people live in Birmingham. They tend to work downtown maybe, but then they live out in Homewood or Vestavia or wherever, and then they commute in or in Shelby County and they leave.
Yes, sir.
So I think there's been a problem with that. Talk to us a little bit about what you've seen over your law enforcement career and how you think we can correct that.
Well, what I've seen with the training and just the level of training, we're losing so many good officers in so many different municipalities. So the experience, the excellence, the training is no longer what it used to be. We train to standard, not to time. So you have a lot of people training just to standard, you know, or just to time, but not to standard. Everybody's on a time limit. So you lose the face-to-face interactions, the encounters, the personal encounters, the wanting to engage people when times are okay. It's not healthy to only see the police in your neighborhood when things are going wrong. So I think it's about reciprocity. Treat people like you want to be treated, and always give someone something that they've never seen before, but in a positive light. I think we have a tendency or a problem just to only show up when things are bad, versus walking through the neighborhood and playing kickball with the children, handing out Halloween candy, showing them what 2 square and 4 square and pickup sticks is, you know, Simon Says. Just there's so many things that we have that we no longer share with people that are not knowledgeable about the things that we used to do to make it work. As I explained to you earlier, we were talking about how children used to have to rush home before the street lights came on at 6 o'clock. And if you came in after those street lights came on, you were in trouble. But now the difference in the dynamics of the children and the way that we're raised in the video games, you have problems getting children outside of the home. So we need to probably try to figure out programs or something that we can do where we have so much interaction now, again, outside of the house.
I love that because, you know, as several of our viewers are saying, it's beautifully spoken, and Rakia was talking about all the great things you're doing, and there's no doubt, and we want to highlight some more of those here in a few minutes. But, you know, I think a lot of people's interaction, young people's interaction, other people's interaction, their first interaction with law enforcement is in a negative connotation. And so when that occurs in their brain, and probably from what they're hearing around them from their peers and everything else, and there may be a justifiable reason it may have been a negative interaction, either because the law enforcement was not handling it appropriate, or maybe they put themselves in a bad position, whatever it is. But I love how you're talking about engaging the community in doing. And you and I were talking the other day in preparation that, I've talked with another police officer who was an SRO, who's been a guest on our show before, talking about that is a beautiful way for children to really get to engage law enforcement in a positive setting and manner, not only there to help keep the school safe, which is certainly a priority, but to build that trust and that relationship. Talk a little bit about how police officers can go about in their communities about building that relationship, what you've seen work and what maybe you would suggest to other officers that might watch the show.
My biggest suggestion to all officers across the entire world: get out of your vehicle and interact with the people who you deal with on a daily basis. You're just a member of the community. We're police officers, but when you take that uniform off, you're still just a community member. So people need to see you in more than just one facet of your life, and let people know that you're here for them, and be genuine. A lot of people are policing, but they're not passionate about the job that they have. So you have to figure out what's your passion. And if this is your passion, treat people like you want to be treated. Reciprocity. And like me, I ride through different neighborhoods. I get out, I'll knock on your door. I say, what are you cooking in there? I smell food in the neighborhood. I'm going to go knock on your door and see what you're cooking. I'm going to see if you have lighter fluid or are you burning something in the stove. So my interactions are very fun. And then when it's time to deal with the serious issues that transpire throughout the day, and I show up again, they remember I'm the officer that came out there and had fun with the entire family.
Right.
It pays. It pays to speak to people. Get out of your car, walk your beat. Back in the day, they used to say we had beats. We were beat officers. Beat officers walked. So as of 2022, I still continue to walk through my neighborhoods and park my patrol car.
That's fantastic. And I've got to imagine as you're out meeting children, as you're talking to people that are sitting on their front porch, as maybe you're breaking bread with some of these folks from time to time and you're building that rapport with them. And so when there is another interaction that may have other implications going on because of the role you play as a police officer, you've got a better line of communication with that person. They trust you when you're asking them for information or they're asking you for help or that kind of thing, right? As opposed to the very first interactions we said a few minutes ago is maybe in a negative connotation.
Yeah, just an example for today. Just today, I got off at 7:00 this morning. I got a call at 6:30 that someone was laying down and unresponsive. I went to the home. The lady had passed away. She's 91 years old.
Oh, gosh.
I know the family. This is today. I'm trying to console the family, take information, deal with the paramedics. And at the conclusion of me dealing with the family and another officer coming in to take over, she asked me, did I want a Pepsi? The reason why she asked me if I wanted a Pepsi is because everybody in my community knows I'm a Pepsi-holic and I love gummy bears. So I'm trying to deal with a family who just lost their great-grandmother, right, their mother, and in the end, she's thinking about me when I'm walking out of the door. So that's the kind of interaction that I think police officers should have. People know you by your name, and people know you by your performance, and people will know if you are true to what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think something that resonated with me that you said a few minutes ago, and I think it's got to be true, is that for those folks in law enforcement, this has to be a passion or a calling. And I talk about this with in another area with my wife, who's a school teacher, and I think the teachers that you can just sense the teachers that it's a calling or a passion. And I've got to think in your profession the same is true, that we do have some bad eggs out there, no doubt. And those folks that are not in it for the right reason need to get out or need to be put out. And more people like yourself need to be involved. We need just right here. We need more officers like you. We need more officers like Officer Tommy Norman, who you and I talked about. Folks that are passionate about giving back and about being involved in the community to make the community a better place. Because I think the interactions that you're talking about not only going to make your job safer, but I think it's going to make our community safer.
Yes, sir. I think
Yeah.
that what we talk about at my job is something called comparables. So the society and the normal community and population may not view things exactly as police. So I want to set up a comparable. If you go to a fast food restaurant and you receive bad service, say I throw your drink out the window, or I throw your change out the window and it gets all over your car, and that person gives you the worst customer service in the world. That might have been your first
Yeah.
time you ever went to that restaurant. But does that mean it's a bad restaurant and we protest against all those restaurants? Does it mean that that person doesn't need to be in fast food? Or could it possibly be that that person's just having a bad day and may not
Right.
need to work the window that day? So, what people need to understand is that police officers, although we're supposed to be held to a higher level of integrity, you have to understand that you're dealing with people, people who are coming from a home environment that may not be well off. You have police officers and firemen living out of their cars. You have people in these professions in the same predicaments as others who are not working. So you have to understand before we're so quick to judge someone, try to, if you can, in the short period of time, try to process that they might have issues and other things going on as well, because you're
Yeah.
just dealing with people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's a great point to make because, we have that interaction and so many other facets of our life that whether it's dealing with a consumer issue, you call one company to deal with something and you can't get the right person on the phone and you feel like you're getting the runaround and nobody's doing anything, or you go to a restaurant and you, like you said, you get poor service or something, and then you come back the next 5 times and the service is exceptional. And, we all have bad days here and there, and we all have things that are going on in our world that nobody else may know about and do. But I think that goes back to what you said and what we've kind of been circling around for the last 15 minutes or so, and that is if there is a relationship that has been built, and it's not just, I think kind of goes back to what one of our viewers were saying a while ago, that we need more officers like you. And I mean that in the sense that if there are more officers that care and more officers that are involved in the community, if the public has a sense of connection with their local law enforcement department, then if they have one interaction with one officer that is not positive, and I don't mean something outrageous that we've seen that should never happen under any circumstances, I mean somebody just being rude, like you're saying.
Yes, sir.
That one interaction, if there are other interactions with the police have been positive, I don't think that one interaction is going to spoil anything.
Right. Right. We just need more people to really enjoy and appreciate what you're doing. I hear across the country everybody's talking about pay. It's just like teachers. Then I hear people say we signed up for it, so we did. But your compensation and your pay for me is a reflection on people's faces after I get through interacting with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be as simple as walking someone across the street.
Yeah. Well, or someone in their time of need and in a downtime for them offering you a Pepsi.
No, I need that Pepsi.
Yeah, right. But I mean, that simple gesture this morning to you and someone else's time of need when they've lost someone speaks volumes to your character and speaks volumes to that relationship that you've built with them, that they were looking out for you even when they were having a tragedy in their world, and that they knew you well enough to know you like Pepsi and not Coke or not Dr. Pepper or Mountain Dew.
Right. Wow.
Folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Mo Show Live. Our guest today is Officer Lane Harper with Birmingham Police Department. We have been talking for the last 20 minutes about the role law enforcement plays in our communities and how we can build better relationships with law enforcement in our local communities by having law enforcement getting better engaged in the community and getting to know their community, which is going to build a better trust and friendship between the two to make our communities safer and make things safer for police officers like Officer Harper. Officer Harper, the last thing I really want to kind of touch on, and because to me this speaks volumes about that you are living out what you're preaching, and that is your foundation, the Power of Life Foundation, and that how you have now, I guess, just been called upon, and your heartstrings are such that by your involvement in your community, you have learned that there are needs out there. And so tell our viewers out there what the Power of Life Foundation is. Kind of give us a little background about what it is, how it got started, and its mission, please.
Okay, well, the Power of Life Foundation started a little bit before the pandemic started. I found $600 while I was out, and I called someone that I was in a play with, my assistant director, and told her I found $600. She was like, "What are you going to do with it?" I said, "Well, I want to help people." I said, "Maybe I can help all these women who have been involved in domestic violence and get them a hotel room." So she said, "No, because after 5 hotel rooms, the $600 will be gone." So I don't remember exactly what month it was, but it was on the 19th, COVID hit. So I said, "We got to get some masks." So while people were being charged for masks, I wanted to purchase some and hand them out for free. So that's where it all began, just trying to give things back to the community where people were charging for something that they said was going to take our lives. So if it was so important that it was going to take our lives, why are you charging people for something that can save everyone? So I wanted to try to give them things for free. Now, as we have moved on and progressed, our focus is on the transients, veterans, people living at or below the poverty level, hurricane storm victims. And we're not only working in the state of Alabama, we have the state of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Michigan. We're doing backpack giveaways for school, over 2,000 backpacks at every location, turkey giveaways, Christmas giveaways. We're paying for people's rents, mortgages, power bills, the necessities. We're buying children clothes, diapers, and we need help. So, we need your help. But it's just about reaching back and picking someone else up who might be in a bad predicament. And everybody has to understand, no matter who you speak with on a daily basis, everyone is going through something. So be passionate in your conversation. Their struggle may not be like yours. It might be in a whole different direction, but everybody is going through something. So always keep that in mind. If we're able to help in such a small way or a large way, give back and your blessings will come 100-fold.
100 times. And totally agree with that philosophy and your passion for that. And thank you for what you're doing for communities all over to help those in need. Because, when I've listened to stories of other people who've fallen on hard times, a lot of these folks, Officer Harper, it was just something that happened, one tragic event, a house fire, or they lost their job, or maybe they were someone close to them passed away, or maybe they had a back injury and then they got hooked on some kind of narcotics or something, but they were just one thing off that path took them the wrong way, and they just need somebody not to look down on them, but to help them and to try to give them a little bit of a love and a little bit of help up, and to show them some respect. And one of the things that you talked to me about yesterday was that resonated with me with regard to the Power of Life Foundation was you said you should always try and bring someone up to a level they've never experienced before. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, just as growing up, whatever your profession might be or whatever your transactions have been through your life, if you're able to reach back to a younger child, to establish a foundation or just an experience, someone may have never been to the zoo before. So if you can just take a group of kids to the zoo and explain to them something about animals, just allowing them to have something to do that they've never done before, where they would want to share that with their other friends. So you're setting a foundation for someone to be the leader in another area. So you're giving someone the reins to ride the horse, and they can do it at their own speed. Yes.
Yeah, I like that, because different folks, their level and their skill set and the way they want to do things may be a little different and do. But I think everybody deserves that right to have that opportunity to experience something and do. And I think I just think if you give someone that chance and do, it changes their mindset. I mean, we all have had those experiences where we doubt ourselves and do, and then a lot of times if you can't get out of your own way, it's so tough. But you really need someone else to help you understand that and to say, you know what, Lane, I believe in you and I want to help you and do. And once you realize that the whole world's not out to get you and that somebody does love you and care about you, and if it's just as simple a gesture as providing you some food or providing you other things, then that really can turn somebody's world around. It doesn't, at first it may seem like you're just doing this one little thing, but that can really make a difference. Don't you
Right.
think?
You just said something. You said to change their thought process. And that's what I talk to the new recruits about. Quick example, I was downtown, transient guy. I had some Army dinners, the dinners that you can cook, the military meals.
Yes, sir.
And I opened up the pack. I called the guy across the street. He told me he doesn't deal with police. I said, well, I deal with people. He said, well, I don't deal with police. So anyway, I got him to come over to the car and I was showing how to prepare a meal from the military. He was so engaged in learning how to see how we were able to warm up food without a microwave. And he said he never has spoken to a police officer on this level for that period of time. And then he was over there eating with me. He said, so the things that he thought about police, this is just this past winter. He said, I just changed that. And my interaction with him was probably
Wow.
a 30-minute long experience, but every time he's dealt with the police, he's been put in jail. So just allowing someone to see something different. A smile is something different to a lot of people. Holding the door open, we can go back to that. It's still a few good men out here.
Hey, preach on with that. That's how I was raised, and my son knows about manners and doing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being respectful to others around you and to the elderly, and to, in my opinion, holding the door open for a lady and doing it. So, this is a great. I totally agree with this comment. The smallest effort makes the biggest. It can make the biggest difference there. So, certainly true. Certainly. Let me do real quick what I'd like to do. We've got Teresa, I think, is your co-executive there at the Power of Life Foundation. Has been sharing some profiles there. But let me do this. Let me share my screen if I can do it without messing it up, and share y'all's website just a minute so people can take a quick look at that, and we can show them how they can get involved. As we do this, Officer Harper, talk to us a little bit about the opportunities, what y'all are doing in the community. Can you give some examples of some of the programs that y'all are doing as we get ready to wrap up our conversation today? Some of the programs, I know y'all have been doing food giveaways and mask giveaways, and I know you've been doing some backpacks for kids supplies, which is a big need.
Yeah, we're doing Souls for Soul. We have Souls for Soul sponsoring us. We're providing shoes for people, clothing. Off the top, there's so much that I have to say. Just different programs, depending on what time of the year it is, we're here for you. If there's anything that you need, you can reach out and call us. If we don't have it, we'll get it. If we don't have the answer, we'll research it. We'll bring it back to you. The picture that you see there, boots on the ground. Like I said, a lot of police officers and a lot of fire department members are living out of their vehicles. So the kind of things that we do with our contract here with Under Armour sponsor, we put more boots on the ground by covering people's feet who are on the workforce. And we give these out also to the homeless shelters. So I'll go to a homeless shelter, get everybody's size. And as long as they come back in attendance, they'll receive their shoes. So, oh man, we have so many programs. What I would do is just say, please, if you can, take the time and opportunity to visit our website.
Yeah. So here that is, folks. I think I had a typo to start with, and I appreciate Teresa correcting me there, and I fixed it. It's poweroflifefoundation.org. Go there, and you can easily click through here to follow all the great things y'all are doing on social media and YouTube. You can find out more about their sponsors, how to contact them, some stories, meet the staff, and if you want to assume y'all are a nonprofit, so 501c3, so any donation is tax-free, right, Officer Harper?
Yes, that's correct.
And so do that. There's it looks like a pretty easy way to donate right there with a link. And then there's a Cash App information right there down at the bottom. So check our friends out here at the Power of Life Foundation. They are doing great things. And I know you told me not only in Alabama, but over in Georgia. I think you mentioned back, was it Michigan or somewhere else? Where did you mention?
Michigan and Florida.
Florida. And looking to come to a state near you, right? And
Looking to come to a state near you.
So, but yeah, folks, please consider doing that. And I'm sure y'all can always use more volunteers and support and do so. So please reach out to Officer Harper, Ms. Barger. Is it Berger? Teresa Berger?
Burger.
Teresa
Like a
Berger,
hamburger.
and Teresa and the others over at the Power of Life Foundation. I'm sure they would love to work with you and help any needs that you may have out there, and would love your help, either monetarily or sharing things on social media and do it. Officer Harper, this has been just a pleasure to have you on. I want to thank you for all you're doing for your community and all you're doing for others with the Power of Life Foundation, and to just improve community relations and to open up a conversation that I think needs to continue and to have, because this dialogue is so healthy and it helps other people understand how we can make better communities and better lives for all of us if we just sit down and talk to one another.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
You.
We will end with that right there. Ms. Berger, we appreciate that. Officer Harper, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Let's stay in touch.
Thank
Folks, if you've got questions or comments, reach out to Officer Harper, and I'm sure he'll be glad to see how he can help others in your community too. Thank you, Officer Harper.
Thank you very much, sir.